And to stick with the relays, I got to go with the U.S. mixed medley relay order as the flop. I don't know if they didn't have a calculator or what was going on, or if they were just trying to conserve people too well or put people on their best.
Made that call.
Justify these decisions. And it's simple arithmetic when it boils down to it. You got to put the biggest differences there, and I don't know. I just couldn't get it. And the tough thing was they all swam well on that relay. They all had pretty good times. The 4 people.
Welcome back to the Social Kick Podcast. I'm Brian Lundquist. We've got the full crew on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean: Meg Armitage, Dr. John Mullen, and Luke Paddington. We are joined digitally and virtually, but literally scattered all over the place now. So it's been a little while since we've been around, and I think a little while since we've done this, and I think I've been missing it too. So, boys, lady, what are you drinking tonight?
Ladies first, go.
I'm having a cup of tea because it's 1 a.m. in the morning.
Boom!
And for a reminder for everybody, Meg, where are you based?
I'm in the UK. I'm in Yorkshire. I just moved back home, graduated, so I'm just chilling out until I start my journalism course in September.
Whoa, she graduated. Upper seconds?
Yeah, upper second.
All right.
Didn't get a graduation ceremony, but we're holding out for next year. Thank you, COVID, but never mind.
Everything canceled.
Yeah.
What is upper second? I don't even have any idea what that means.
Upper seconds means like A minus.
I'm not mansplaining. I'm trying to ask Meg a question here. Come on,
I'm converting it to you.
If you go to, you get like a first, which is like the highest class, like the best band of degree you can get. And there's 2-1, which is I got, which like other second class is a 2-1. So there's an upper band, and then 2-2, which is the lower band. Then you can get a third, and then it's fail. So I got like the higher band of the second class, which is like, I'm very happy with it. It's what my brother got. It's what my dad got when he went to uni. I feel like it's quite a stable class. So yeah.
Congrats. Nice.
I'm not complaining.
All right, John, what's in the glass?
Well, I'm staying at my place where all my liquor is stored, so I'm going with my most regular drink, Johnny Walker Black.
Deal. All right, Luke, what's up for you tonight?
It's a preview of the next topic, but it's a Eastern hazy IPA. I like my hazies, and I've lost a lot of weight since I stopped drinking the New England IPAs in last month. And this is a 4.9%. So 4.9% hazy IPA, that's a good thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a session IPA, to be honest.
Oh.
Well, I got a concoction here. This is a Dos Equis Amber. I borrowed it from a fridge of my second place where I live, but I've got a couple others on deck, and I think this one you might be familiar with, Luke, the Four Peaks IPA.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, but since you teased it, Luke, and for anybody, we hadn't recorded in a while. We actually sat back and just watched the Olympics and were able to revel in all of the guests that we've had on previously and enjoy their performances, in part because we love watching the Olympics, but also in part because we have all had some pretty major life changes recently. So, which include some moves, some accidents. Luke, why don't you start us off and give us a life update?
So about a month ago, I started on a 2-week trip across the United States, going through beautiful Yellowstone and Chicago, what have you. And I brought my 2 kids, wife, 2 dogs, fish, and a snail, and 3 plants to New York State. And we ended up we bought a house in New York State, and I've moved to a place called Westchester County. So that's where we are. Got a house about 2 weeks ago and said goodbye to California 15 years. That's it.
So there you go. Yeah. But it's all about moving on to bigger and better things, and your tribe stays with you. So
that's it.
Yeah, and thankfully doing this thing virtually still works out.
There you go. You would never know.
Where are you swimming now, Luke?
Yes.
I'm not swimming yet.
Next question.
They have these towns have these community pools. So I went to my brother's community pool, which is like 5 pools, diving, kid pool, lap pool, what have you, with millions of people who go there and they lounge chairs and stuff. So it's a lap pool. I jumped in a lap pool and you know, I swam there a couple times. That was it. Some age groupers around me. But there were literally a million of people going back and forth, cloudy water, super chlorinated, no flags. But you know, got some in. I've been doing the dry stuff, not the wet stuff, like walking and running. So.
Dry land. You can say it. All right, John, give us the update.
Yep. So a few weeks ago, my wife and I took her Tesla and drove from San Jose to Washington. So we are now in Washington, or at least sometime in Washington. My wife took a new coaching job. For those who don't know, my wife is a swim coach as well. So we moved up to Washington. We're staying with her family while we get our base and everything settled there. And I am commuting back and forth a few days a week in San Jose, and then the rest of the time up in Washington. I got to enjoy the Olympics in Hawaii. One of our good friends, I guess, got married, you could say. They already got married because of COVID, and then they just had a reception out there. So I was going for some nice ocean swims and then not getting married, then watching the Olympics at the hotel room at like 3 p.m., yelling by myself and really enjoying it, in all honesty. But that's what I've been up to.
Meg, what about you? What's the latest?
I mean, yeah, mine's not very exciting. I mean, I moved from Leicester to Yorkshire, which is like a 2-hour journey, which I just moved back into my parents' home. But yeah, I'm just sort of working, getting some money up, ready to start learning again in September.
What are you doing in September?
I did join a master's swimming team, so I have joined you guys in that way.
Welcome.
Which is brilliant because I needed to get properly back into swimming again after not swimming fly in like a year and a half, which is now killing me. But
a year and a half you spent between swimming butterfly.
Well, I used to be a butterfly swimmer, but generally I don't understand how, because I mean, I can't do it anymore. I get to like 15 meters and I'm dead. But yeah, like none of the pools would let you had to do a sensible stroke. So I couldn't do butterflies for like a year and a half.
That's why we did. All right.
That is
Not
such a British thing.
Butterfly.
What's so annoying is that my breaststroke is probably messier than my fly, but
that's the most sensible thing.
Sensical, freestyle, side stroke, backstroke.
Social check.
Sorry, we're
social
talking.
check. I wasn't allowed to do that. No, I just wasn't allowed to do anything. It was like really nice fun. I think I went to like a swimming session and I did like with one of my friends, and we did like quite like a hard, like intense freestyle set, and someone complained about us because there was no like club swimming going on. So you could only go in your own free time. So yeah, someone complained about us for swimming too aggressively.
That's the move. When I used to swim at like LA Fitnesses in grad school, it'd be like a 2-lane pool. You just like dive in and start sprinting or doing butterflies. So the people making out in the lane would move to the side, and then you can do something actual.
Could there be any more British thing than telling people they need to swim more politely, though?
They wouldn't even tell you to your face, though. They have to go tell the lifeguard, and the lifeguard has to come and ask you.
I have to say, I was in a public pool in Hong Kong once and the pool was pretty crowded, long course. There must have been, like at least 5 to 7 people per lane, circle swimming, and left to right. And I remember waiting, like I wanted to do some fast swimming, which was stupid. That was totally rude of me.
Not sensible.
No, that wasn't sensible at all. But I remember leaving like a 25 or a 30 meter gap in between when I pushed off the wall and the next swimmer. And I went fast and I still ended up catching this person when I didn't intend to, and I didn't even see them when I came up on them. And I remember taking a freestyle stroke that went like, I felt like it just like went into this guy's gut, like right into his stomach. And I could feel my finger just like go into his stomach. And then I came up and went, "I'm so sorry." And he beat me to it. He was going, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I'm like, "What? I'm the one who's sorry. I'm the asshole." Like,
We have learned to come to a complete stop when you're swimming sometimes. I realize swimming's for like 40 years of our life. We can't go full speed and go, and all of a sudden I can have the great reactions to avoid or get out the way suddenly, often. But
you can't
not
break
always.
a boat or a jet ski.
Yeah. But Brian, the day I left and I jumped in this car and I drove with my wife and 2 kids and 2 dogs and a goldfish and 3 plants and a snail. The morning I left, you texted me a lovely message, on Instagram. Then you jumped on your bike and
then I fell off my bike. Yeah, so I was out on a training ride, actually getting ready I was having a pretty good triathlon season. I had won my age group at the last race I did, and then had qualified for 70.3 Worlds in the age group, and was getting ready to do my next race. I was out for a final training ride before the following weekend's race, and was doing some tempo efforts on the bike, and about an hour and 45 minutes into a 2-hour plus ride, I hit something in the road, and it knocked me clear off the bars, and I fell to the ground, and got lucky that I didn't get hit by a car, but I broke my hip with an injury that's pretty only happens with like high speed, high impact type of trauma. So took my first ambulance ride to the hospital. Fortunately, some bystander cyclists were there to call the ambulance for me. Had to spend a couple days in the hospital before a 9-hour surgery, ultimately spent a week in the hospital, and still crutching around. But fortunately, I think coming from a swimming background and an athletic background, healing pretty quickly. And so very happy to be back in the water. I got some unexpected, a lot of time with family. I've got a lot of unexpected ability to spend time watching the Olympics, which was awesome. So, and we will spend a little bit more time talking about that. But I have to say, while I'm on this, that, when you have trauma happen in your life, you're reminded about who your friends are. And I've been so thankful that the vast majority of my friends, especially here in California, came from the swimming community. And, I think that, forever throughout my life, I'll be, that will follow me, and it's following each of us as we take these, next steps in our lives. Swimming brought us together, that we all met through Masters Swimming, and it'll keep us together going forward. So very thankful for my health, for swimming having brought me that, as well as a support network. So, but anyway, so yeah, we've all had, let's say, a few things going on. So
Cheers.
Cheers to that. And we look forward to getting back into the regular swing of things here with some guests coming up. But for now, even though a bit belated, we're still going to chat Olympics, because we haven't had a chance to talk through Olympics as a group. And the Olympics are a big deal. They will only happen once every 4 or 5 years or 3 years.
all 3.
It was awesome.
Or 1 if you went
It
to
was
Olympics.
awesome.
So John, tell us about the Olympics. Was it awesome?
It was awesome. Come on now. Everyone together, competing, people pumping up imaginary crowds after unexpected lane 8 wins, horrible U.S. coaching mixed relay decisions, Michael Andrew not reaching past his head at the end of a 200 IM. I mean, it was awesome. I was pumped. I watched every minute except for when I was at Tim's wedding. Of everyone. So I loved it. I thought there was a lot of good stuff. I'm excited to talk with you guys about it, because usually we talk about it like every day, but we haven't spoke much more than a few texts about it. So I'm excited to get everyone else's reactions.
Yeah, I know. Me too. And so maybe we ought to just get right into it then. So there are a few things that we're going to hit on the Olympics. First is everybody's favorite race, and then we're going to get into surprises of the Olympics. I think we'll do a little, what we call pops and flops, like who had a great race and popped one, and who really flopped. We don't have to go that format if we don't want to. And then we'll also get into standout male and female swimmers of the meet. And then we'll just go wherever. So why don't we start with that? And Meg, what was your favorite swim of the meet?
My favorite swim was the men's 4x200 free relay.
I figured so.
Partly because I'm biased.
You had to get one.
But I am not ashamed to say that it made me cry. I'm going to slightly blame it on the fact it was like 4 a.m., but it made me cry. I expected it to be my favourite race going in, to be fair, because I had good hopes and I had high hopes for it, but I didn't expect it to be as great as it was, especially the fact they were like 0.03 off the world record, which was funny because then even when the BBC commentators thought that they'd like equaled it, so you could hear them as soon as like Duncan touched the wall, everyone was like, oh my god, they've equaled the world record, and then they were like, oh no, they haven't. So there was like a really small like instance where everyone was like, oh they haven't. Well, I was like, why is nobody celebrating? They just won gold. It was brilliant. But that was definitely it. Joined with just the 4x200 because, not the 4x200, the men's 200 free because we got a 1-2. And Britain haven't had that in like, I think it was like 109 years in a swimming event, which was crazy.
Dino.
So, I mean, Dino came through and they were saying he was gonna, and I mean, Jesus Christ, he came through like a rocket.
Was that a surprise? Was that a surprise for him to go 1-2 and in that order as well? Who did we expect to have won that race before?
I think I expected Duncan to win. I wanted a 1-2. I thought that was still possible, but I expected it to be Duncan and then Dino, just because of how everything's been going. Even like in the domestic meets, it's always been that, like leading up for like the last year. So I expected it to be Duncan then Dino, but Dino got a ride with the Chinese swimmer just going absolutely off on one in that first 175, and then managed to keep it going because he's still really fast in that last 50. I mean, obviously Duncan's coming back like a storm, but still managed to hold him off. So when they touched the wall for that 1-2, it was just brilliant. My dad came into my room, he was like screaming all over the place, even though it was like, again, like 4 a.m. in the morning. So yeah, it was definitely brilliant to watch.
All right. I was surprised by that. I mean, no Americans medaled. The Russians didn't medal. I thought maybe an Aussie would have got in there. I mean, you got a Brazilian come third. That was a surprise to the 1-2 and a Brazilian. But yeah, it was a brilliant race. I agree. And the 4x2, but I was expecting the 4x2. That's why I was like, yeah, I got it. But yeah, you got it. You have 1-2 on, and then you got a 146 guy, and yeah, you got it.
Shout out to Matt Richards from our podcast on that as well, because his last 100 was, I was screaming at my laptop. It was brilliant.
That was killer.
And I don't think many people would have picked Dino, but people have been talking about Dino on the show and over time for a while. So obviously he wasn't the favorite, and he had a great trial, so we all were aware of him. But we've been hearing about him for a while. It's like, oh yeah, Dino's really gonna step up, and boom, Olympic gold.
He finally broke out. Yeah, for sure. John, what was your favorite race?
This was a tough one, but I alluded to it with my exciting, rough analysis. But that men's 400 free, man, I'm a sucker for an underdog or someone I've never heard of or expected. This guy from Tunisia in lane 8 that none of us, I confidently can say I've heard of before the Olympics. Am I right?
Never.
Right?
Never heard of.
And we freaking follow swimming. I never heard of this guy. I can't pronounce his name, I'm sure. Ahmed Hoffeno. I can't say any names. I'm so bad at it.
John's terrible at saying names anyway. So
so bad at saying names.
Hafnaoui.
But how did he win that race?
My man Ahmed pulling the win in lane 8, and his excitement and reaction and walking around yelling at the imaginary crowd. I had goosebumps there. And like I said, it was just a great Olympic moment for me. It was early on in the meet, and that was like the boom. This is why this event is so great, because the unexpected can happen from different countries and people we've never heard of. And like I said, I was pumped up after that. I was having a blast, and it just set the stage for the whole rest of the meet. But that was my favorite race.
Luke, what was your favorite race?
It's a race that I swam that most of us swam here.
Showing her breast.
Yeah. It was the men's 100 free. The men's 100 free was just, I didn't know where it would go. I had doubts on some of how the favorites were swimming, to be honest. I shouldn't have. But I didn't know how it would turn out. And it was so exciting down to the touch. How it played out, and it was how they went out and how they came back, and then Kyle just losing to Caleb, the defending champion, and then Caleb, his reaction was just such a outpouring of relief, of was really like redemption to somebody we all think is the greatest swimmer in the world right now, and he's still, you can tell, he's like, oh my God, it came out, and all his work proved, and he proved himself. So just to see that, and to see how Kyle, defending champion, lost his championship, but still was so gracious and great afterwards. So the race itself, super exciting for anybody who knows swimming, who swam the 100 free, who knows the tactics in 100 free, super exciting. And how did each of those guys reacted afterwards? Who came third? Oh yeah, Colin Sagoff, who was having an amazing race, who was charging down as well. So you had Kyle and Clement charging down Caleb, who had gone out like a rocket, like, what do you go, 22-1 or something?
22-4, I think.
24?
No, 22-3.
23. And then you have these guys charging, and he holds on to win, and it was just the full drama of sport, something I related to, and I was so moved by that. I was screaming.
I have to say, that was the only race that I found myself yelling at the TV.
Mm-hmm. Great race. Great
race. I was so fired up for that one. It makes sense. I love swimming the 100 free. Passionate about that one. That was an amazing race.
22-3-9. He was out in that one.
This one's tough for me. I made a list of them, but I'm gonna pick the one, since nobody said it. I'm just gonna say that the race of the meet coming in, I thought ended up delivering in the biggest way, which was the women's 400 free. I thought it could not have delivered better. Everybody thought Ledecky looked flat at trials and weren't sure if it was going to be a bloodbath. Of course, all the Aussies were saying Titmus was going to blow her out of the water. The way that they swim their races just played out to the best it possibly could have, with Ledecky going out and having a big lead. And then we're all sitting here wondering, is Ariane going to pull her back? Is she not going to pull her back? Is Ledecky going to be able to hang on? And Ledecky delivering her second best swim ever.
All time. Yeah.
And Ariane delivering her best swim ever. How could, that's one of the hardest things to do, is to be able to show up at the Olympic Games. I was just talking to a Japanese friend of mine recently about Japan and their team's performance in the Olympics, and how few best times they swam at the games versus typically what the American team does in terms of best time swam at the Olympic Games. And as we all know, that's always been the game for us who swam in the NCAA. All the talk that our coaches would always say is, show up to the meet, go your best time. If you go your best time at the meet, you're gonna do well. And really you're gonna score points. You're gonna final. If you do that at the Olympic Games, in all likelihood, you go PB, you're gonna do some damage. It's the hardest thing to show up and do that. And in fact, I thought Chalmers recently said something really well, and in that he's been able to stand up in 2 Olympic finals and deliver his PB. And, and that gives him the satisfaction of the silver medal, even though he lost that race, Luke. And so, I know that it was Katie's second best time ever, but to be on, not, I guess, past her prime in her career, you could argue, and to still deliver that performance in the 400 free with all the hype, man, I just thought, that one was amazing. Obviously I was pulling as an American, pulling for Katie. But was just as a fan of swimming, it was fun to watch that race play out.
Yeah, she had a lot to prove after Worlds. After Worlds, in 2019 was hard. And then she hadn't competed for 2 years of the COVID, a year and a half. It was a form. It's great. But Brian, I thought you were going to talk about the coach reaction at the end.
He's a character, but I don't care. I'm there to watch the swimming. I don't need to see Dean humping the wall.
One note, none of us picked a world record race.
Right.
And this makes me kind of like, we talk a lot about ISL, and we have ISL coming up, and maybe we'll do another show or talk more about it in depth another time. But it is the races and the build up and the unexpected that I think we like. And I know summers we always say, oh, it's all about the times, it's all about the records and all that. But none of us picked the world record here.
No, well, there weren't too many to pick from.
There weren't, but still, there were some. There were a few, and we'll get into that. But I found that interesting because I was like, when you sent out the list of things for us to talk about, I was like, this really was my favorite race, and it was not that good a time in the 400 free. It was exciting and unexpected, and like I said, I think, and Luke's been saying it for a while. I think Brian as well, just like the build up at ISL and building the storylines and all that make swimming exciting. So I'm excited to see how they can carry that over next year. But
the 100 free was very, very fast. Then 16 guys go 47s together or something like that. Oh, it was. We expected it to be very fast.
Some events were fast and then some were slow. I mean, the 4 a.m. final was so slow.
So slow.
I would have made like the 2 fly.
Go Carson Foster, baby. Go Carson Foster, right?
If you swam the 2 fly at the Olympics, you made semis, 4 men.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the first. All right, so we're going to move on to surprises of the meet. And are you guys ready for pops and flops? All right, Luke, give me a surprise of the meet. And if so, like who did well that you didn't expect?
Well, the surprise of the meet was what John mentioned, Ahmed. That was the kind of swim, and we've all seen somebody go out, Chad, go out and just try to hold on. I'm like, okay, that guy's gonna go out and hold on, and it's gonna be terrible. We know what's gonna happen. It's not happening. Okay, wait, he's still keeping his stroke long. All right, he's got 100 more. This is it. He's done. Wait, he has legs. Wait, he's breathing to the right. He won. Everything about that entire race, I kept like saying, "Oh, that's a nobody," and he was so long and gangly. So Ahmed's 400 free to me by far was the surprise of the meet. Close second, Jacoby, but yeah.
Can I just mention while you're talking about like the surprise of the meet, to call it the surprise of the meet? I mean, I know that we mentioned his name on this podcast, Ahmed Hafnawi, and we should get to know it because he's the Olympic champion and he's here to stay. He's a young guy. I certainly hope that he's got a long and prosperous career. But when I was making notes for this earlier today, I just put 400 free guy.
See
that, like, say no more about how big of a surprise he was to win Olympic gold. That's crazy. That happens so rarely too, that somebody just comes from completely off the grid.
And a country like Tunisia.
Yep.
And
a country like Tunisia.
And period. He was the mic drop off the grid. Nobody's ever heard of him.
No doubt.
And his reaction, it was great.
Best broadcasting like over here.
You'll agree. All right.
100%. On like broadcasting over here, they were like going through like each person, when they do like the lineup of like who's in the final, and they just missed him out because they were like, oh, he's not going to win, so he's just on the side. And then suddenly, like you could hear the broadcasters were like scrambling to get all the information together. So they were like, who on earth is this guy? But
all right, Meg. So what do you think was the biggest surprise of the meet? And if you have it, who really stood out, popped one?
I mean, same sort of thing, but I guess if we're going on the other side, you mentioned Jacoby, Luke. I was very excited for her to come back on that last 50 or last 20 meters, whatever she's doing. I think I was going into that event expecting Schoenmaker probably to win, and I mean I don't really know Lydia Jacoby that well, so I was like, oh, I don't think anybody really does. She's ridiculously young still, isn't she? I mean, and then for her to be like, okay, is Lily King gonna come back? Is she gonna come back? And then I saw Jacoby, and I was like, oh my god, what is she doing? So that's very excited for her doing that. I felt bad for her when the whole 4x100 mixed happened, but just to think that she had that 100 so cleanly in the bag, I think she was so surprised about it as well.
Yeah. John, what about you?
All right. Well, like I said, to keep some new things going, I'm going to go with the women's 800 free relay as a surprise. So we had China pulling the win. Didn't see that coming. I thought Australia was going to get it. U.S. getting second and Australia getting third. And Australia had a great meet. I think this is one of their few misses, in all honesty. Obviously, coming into it, their reputation in the last maybe 2 Olympiads has been them choking at the Olympics, despite having world's best times, great trials, and all this. And this was, like I said, no, not throwing salt on Australia here, but this is one where, once again, we thought they were going to do well, but China stepped up big time, got the win, and won pretty handedly. And then the U.S., a surprise, getting second as well, with Ledecky putting together a great swim and just a well-balanced team there. So that was my biggest surprise of the meet. And to stick with the relays, I got to go with the U.S. mixed medley relay order as the flop. I don't know if they didn't have a calculator or what was going on, or if they were just trying to conserve people too well or put people on their best.
Made that call.
Justify these decisions. And it's simple arithmetic when it boils down to it. You got to put the biggest differences there. And I don't know. I just couldn't get it. And the tough thing was they all swam well on that relay. They all had pretty good times, the 4 people. It looked like they swim like crap because you expected them to be up there, but they all had good swims, even with I don't know. Meg, can you say the breaststroker's name again? I like it when you say it better than I do.
Lydia Jacobi.
There you go. I mean, she had her goggles down on her cheeks, and she still went like a little slower than her individual time. Oh, that relay was tough. Not against the summer. Moving on.
John, you look good when you're wearing your readers. Yeah. Hey, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, well, it's been said that the U.S. coaching staff and some of their relay decisions and leaving Caleb off I'd really love to be a fly on the wall in the discussion to leave Caleb off the 800 free relay. Obviously, he delivered 5 golds. You can look back at that and go, well, good decision because he delivered 5 golds. And what are people going to remember from this games? They're going to remember they're going to remember Caleb's 5 golds, and we'll get to Emma McKeon a little bit later. But so I think I'm gonna take some liberties here because I got a list. But so biggest surprise of the meet for me, gosh, a couple of them have been said already. But Evgeny Relive, I did not expect him to win double gold in the backstrokes. I thought he had the swims of his life to win 2 golds. And I know he's one of the best backstrokers in the world. That's not a huge surprise, but man, was anybody picking Relive to win double gold? It seemed like he may have been past his prime by a few years. And for him to show up and win twice, I just did not expect that at all. And I'm going to give an honorable mention here too. I don't think this is a big surprise personally because I've seen him swim in college, and we've all seen what he did in the yards pool. But I think the rest of the world didn't expect Bobby Fink to show up and win the 800 free in the way that he did. And then to turn back around, I think that it's easy for the casual swimming fan to think that just because somebody has a big last 50, that in the 1500 he's just going to be able to produce that magic again. And that's not automatic. And so, and yet I was still sitting there watching the 1500 after Bobby's performance in the 800 going, I can count on him to do it again. And then for sure he delivered it again in a bigger way. Yep. And I just man, no one else in the world expected that. And I thought it's been a little while since we've seen somebody show such promise. Well, that's not fair to say, because Caleb did it and he showed promise in the yards pool and then it translated to the big pool. But sometimes we see people show promise in the yards pool and it doesn't necessarily translate in the big pool.
Pretty often.
And I thought, especially with distance swimming, and man, I thought that was one that really probably knocked some people in the world off of their kilter when it came.
Well, it knocked Grant Hackett off. I was listening to Brett's show and Brett had Grant Hackett commentate on the 1500. And first of all, it was a brilliant race. The 3 of them just went stroke for stroke. And Grant was, kept saying, well, this is the point where I would do this. I would do that. I would do that. And he didn't know anything about Bobby Fink. He didn't know he's a 14-12 miler who broke that barrier down from a 14-20 miler. And Grant, when Grant saw what Bobby did, especially that last 100, and he came back in a 55 and a 25 last 50. That you don't come back in a 200 in that time.
No,
Grant.
Some of the top guys that at least made semifinals would have been not back in 25.9. So
There's a-
and the 100 free. And the 100 free.
100 free.
There is a great stat that like Bobby in his last like 50 went like 5 seconds faster than Michael Andrews' last 50 in his 200 IM. 5 seconds.
All right,
But
so a lot of people had him on the list, by the way, Michael Andrew, to be a flop. I'm going to say I don't think Michael Andrew flopped necessarily, but he didn't deliver what he did at trials, and I think that's going to haunt him a little bit as he moves forward in his career as to whether or not he's a pressure swimmer.
Two things with what we've been talking about. One, are we going to talk about Murphy's comments about Ryloff? I'd love to hear your guys' reactions about the timing of it and your thoughts and views on it. And then two, with Andrew, the only flop for me is that he got slower as prelims, semis, finals, and all that. I think, his race, he's going to die in the 200 IM. If you follow him, that's what he does. That's what he does. And with his meet schedule and all that, and he had a good 400 medley split, which I think saved it for me. If he would have gone a 59 on that, that would have changed this whole discussion. But he came through there. That was the only flop for him, in my opinion. But yeah, would love to hear about Ryloff and Murphy's comments.
I heard it was taken out of context. I heard that it was taken out of context, and he was actually in praising and not talking about Rylov in particularly. He was just making a general comment about all the athletes, and he had nothing against Rylov. And they made up afterwards in the talk. It was not specific.
I think that only happened because Ryan realized that it was. I don't think that he originally intended that it was going to get as
out there
media attention as it did, but I do think when he said it that he was targeting the Russians, and
a Russian beat him. So
and a Russian beat him. So I think it's he's a smart guy. There's no way that he didn't know that that's what he was intending to say. He did it, and then I think he was backtracking personally.
We have to remember why they competed as ROC. You have to remember why. Okay.
Yeah.
Systemic doping cannot be stopped. So the Olympics took away their pride, at least.
Yeah, we don't know those guys.
We don't know about that. I'm not saying them. I'm not accusing, but I'm saying that's where it came from, the genesis. But on the doping thing, John, who's the last miler who came back in like a 26 in his 50? They mentioned it during the race.
Sun Yang, man.
Sun Yang. And we immediately assumed, so Fink comes back in at 25, and we like, oh, why? How do you come back with such speed after holding how do you do that?
Well, yeah, and the 800 free world record too. Didn't Lin Zhang come back in something ridiculous too in that race?
I think.
Yeah. On to your other point about Andrew, I mean, he obviously knew that he was a second slower at the 150 than he had been at trials in the 200 IM. So it was like anybody who knows the splits knows, even though he's in the race, he's going to get walloped this last 50, and that he's totally off even his best form. But again, I think hey, he still came through with a medal, and he didn't deliver on what everybody expected, but he still was in the finals of every race, and that's more than some other athletes can say. And so I don't take away that Michael Andrew really flopped his first Olympic Games, but what I just hope for him is that he's able to to grow and learn from this and to continue to get better. And he's proved us all and the whole world wrong for years and years. And I won't be surprised. I'm definitely not betting against him that he's going to make everybody, eat crow because of their picking against him because he flopped in the Olympics. Okay, I'm going to finish this segment though because I didn't get to this. Was who I think flopped, and because I get to do this, I'm just going to rattle off a few of them. So Diaceto, Elijah Winnington are both people that we expected to do amazing things and didn't show up, completely didn't show up. And then my honorable mention is the Russian men 4x100 free relay.
Oh, that was my own. Yes.
Just didn't show up at all. And on paper, man, I thought for sure those guys are going to challenge the U.S. for the win.
I agree.
Nowhere.
All right. Let's move on to swimmer of the meet for whatever reason, however criteria you want to categorize it. Dr. John.
Going first. So should I just go with the obvious ones to get them off the board? I think there's
whatever you want to do.
I'll go with the clear male and female.
Overall, the non-gender bias, and then we go male and female.
Overall,
what do you think? I think that's an interesting question.
I'll go with McKean, Emma McKean. Then I thought she had a great meet, very a lot of medals, a lot of different events, stepped up for various relays. So she I think was my overall swimmer of the meet personally. Obviously she had a lot on her shoulders. A lot of people expected her to do well, but with Australia's history, the last few Olympics, I think she shattered that, did the job, and did it better than I expected. So that she's my overall swimmer of the meet.
Did she do best times? How many of those meets were PBs?
I actually don't know.
I mean, and to your point, like, yeah, she just swam well enough and had, I don't know, it's interesting. But to win the 50, the 100, I mean, she looked on fire from the first time we saw her dive in the water. At trials, she looked on fire.
Yeah, and her freestyle particularly, right? Like she's,
50,
and not
she won pretty well. Yeah, I mean,
silky fast. That's what I want to say. It's like a Penel Bloom kind of freestyle. I just
she looks so calm about it all the time.
Silky fast. It's like, look, I just realized you wear that shirt every podcast.
I do.
9 out of 10 podcasts. Not everyone.
9 out of 10.
It's a uniform. I swim in the same trunks when I swim. So podcast.
The same trunks. Nobody calls it trunks. All right, wait, hold on. So Luke forced you into this, but John, who's your male overall?
5 for 5. Caleb. Would have loved to see him on the 200 free relay or 800 free relay, but
he's not 5 for 5. He was 5 for 6.
5 for 6. Thank you. But I think not doing that relay, I think it makes sense. I would love, like you said, a bit of fly on the wall, or to see who made that decision, if it was Caleb's camp or if it was the coaching's camp, because obviously we didn't have a great swim from Apple, which I don't blame him. But I would have loved to see what he could have done. But I think Dressel, he stepped up in almost all the areas that we needed him from. Actually, all of them. Even that mixed relay just was ridiculous.
He totally delivered, and it's one of those things where there's a gift that some people have to get their hand on the wall, and there's a gift that some people have. You can call it killer instinct. That in the big moments they rise, and that guy just knows how to get it done in the big moments, and you can't teach that. And not only, I mean, he's an incredible athlete, but he's an incredible athlete that's also able to just get it done. And I think, it's just fun to watch. It's cool. It's fun to watch. I think we're lucky that he's an American and we can associate with him, and he's continuing on this legacy of American dominance in swimming. And I think we might not enjoy it as much if he wasn't, selfishly, but he's fun to watch. It's awesome.
And like you said, that men's 100 free was such a good race from everyone. That was so exciting. So we expected that. But even the 100 fly, he had to go a great time, because we didn't expect the 200 flyer to be going that fast. We didn't expect anyone to be that close. And like I said, Caleb still delivered. So like you said, he delivers on multiple levels. When it's needed, he has whatever you want to call it, killer instinct, can get the hand on the wall. So he's my male swimmer.
Meg.
Overall,
UK time. Let's hear
it. Overall, Petey isn't even on it for me, I guess. I mean, as much as he's a legend and I love him, he's not. I wouldn't say he was like my favorite overall swimmer. I think, agreed, like as an overall man, it'd be Emma McKeown. She is just great to watch. I think she looks so calm doing everything as well. Like, she was just so chill the whole meet. She was brilliant. But so probably for women, Emma, same sort of points as John. But for men, again, biased again, but it'd be Duncan Scott for me, just because I think he's so underrated in British swimming. Britain don't realise how great he is just because of his versatility on every event. The fact that he could have swum the 100 free as well and probably have made the final. And I mean, I don't know what time he might have done, but he's shown that he could have done well in that as well. He's just not like, and America is spoiled for choice, so you probably are amazed by this stat, but because he won 4 medals, he's the most successful British Olympian at any single games. just by winning 4 medals. So, I mean, I just really hope he gets the recognition that he deserves from it. I know obviously in his individuals, he only got silvers, but they were by such small margins. Like, I don't count him out at all for the future and what he can do. And I think because they were silvers in his individuals, he wanted gold and he's pushing for gold. I think it's just going to make him hungrier for Paris. So I'll hope it does.
I just got to shout out to the Brits because to me, as a team, that stood out the most. I mean, the Aussies delivered a great Olympics too. They had, especially on the women's side, they just had a lot of women that really delivered in a way that, I don't know anybody expected to, or especially not for as many medals as they ended up winning. But I thought the standout country to me were the Brits. It's just like, and obviously you're talking about Duncan Scott, and I think that's a huge achievement, but between him and Tom Dean and the way James Guy swam on the relays and PD, it just, man, they really had an amazing Olympics across relays and individual events.
Yeah, there were so many close calls as well. I mean, we had a lot of 4th places, and, I think there was a big conversation over here about the women, like the British women, because obviously it was only Anna and Kathleen who got a medal in the end, but we had so many close finishes, and I still think the women went out and still produced good times for the Brits. I think that overall, controversial to say maybe, I think the women at the Olympics from other countries had stellar meets, and I think the Brits were also doing stellar meets for the women. I think they just weren't able, sometimes you're on the other side of the 4th to get to the podium, and I think the women just so happen sometimes to unfortunately fall short of it.
And who could have had a sleepier Olympic trials than the Brits? We all remember watching the live stream of the British Olympic trials, and it was
like a Canadian beat. McGill. I'm like, yeah, Redbirds. Oh, 144s.
Yeah. How could you get up and swim fast in that environment? So for everybody to make that team was a huge accomplishment. John, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that Italy also had, I think, a good Olympics. They had as many medals as China and Canada, which I didn't think going into it they would be with those countries. They just didn't get the gold, but the men had great races. Like you said, maybe it helped out from other team relays not doing as well, but they surprised me with as many medals as those other countries.
Nah, we only care about gold. Get out of here. Luke.
When was the meet? You can't not say Emma and then Caleb, for all the reasons. Emma is the winningest, the most accomplished Australian athlete in the Olympics ever, beating the great Ian Thorpe. I mean,
winning 10, the most winning 10.
You're winning 10.
No.
So Emma and Caleb, absolutely for all the reasons, knowing how to step up on the day to perform when you need to perform in the Olympics is rare. Fantastic versatility, but if you look at it, you guys know who Bud Greenspan is?
Yeah, the Olympic historian who makes the films.
Yeah, great, exactly. He's got to make a film on Sarah Sostrom. I mean, what she did, guys, this was a clean break in February? Clean break. Brian, you know that well. And she came back and she silvered in the 50 free. She finaled in maybe the 100 free, 100 fly. Yeah. Are you joking? She was always there. And if Sarah Storch was next to you and she had just broken her arm a few months ago and she is finding all the strength you lose being out of the water for so long and to come back in those sprint events, sure she lose her conditioning but her strength. That is a heck of a story. And so kudos to Sarah Storstrom. And I just know that ISL, watch out. That's what I gotta say. When she gets stronger.
Kudos. You got it. Wait, hold on. So what did you say on the men's side?
It's Caleb. I mean, yeah, if you don't
pick someone else.
If I want to pick someone else, it's like who's this guy? He wins.
Man, that was a silky stroke right there.
And he wins. He has no expression. No expression. Milak.
Oh,
he literally didn't even cross his he didn't smile once. And he almost won the 100. What did he go? 49 what? I mean, he did. So Milak he showed his potential. He showed his want to be great. He shows that he wanted to break that world record in a 2 fly. That's why he wasn't happy. And he almost got the 100 fly. So I was really impressed with how Milak's found this young kid who's just going to do so well. And apparently he's just very quiet and down to it. So yeah, I was happy to see him swim well.
By that logic, I think it was interesting for me to watch Lily King swim this meet, because you could say like Lily King didn't have the meet that she came to the Olympics for, and that's true. But at the same time, it's really hard to peak for two different distances at the same time.
Very different.
I think that's another thing that the people that are really successful in it, that they cause us to take that for granted, how easy it is to be great at multiple distances. But the reality is, when you're training for 100 versus a 200,
double.
Those are like, they're completely different training methods. And I thought, like, similar to Milak, it was like, okay, well, you missed the world record in the 200, and he, was visibly not like that pleased with his time. But at the same time, my takeaway wasn't, oh man, this guy's primed for the 100, to be able to pull out what he pulled out in the 100. And then I just had the same feeling looking at Lily King was, okay, Lily wasn't as sharp in the 100 as she expected to be, but whoa, did she deliver in the 200? And I've wondered, I'd love to talk to Lily King, because I'd love to ask her, whether or not, like, if she knew going in that she had an option of a silver and a bronze in the 100 and in the 200 and the 100, versus a gold in the 100 and no medal in the 200. And by the way, that she would go sub 220 for the first time, which one she would pick. And I don't know what the answer to that would be, but I'd love to know. So
they got beaten by a world record.
Yeah, I mean, going sub 220, you talk about like satisfaction of a swimmer is, I mean, yeah, achievement, sure, but like going to best time means a lot. And like if you don't medal, but you still go a best time, there's a lot of satisfaction you take from that too, is saying, hey, I did my best as I ever have. All right, so let's see. I got a few. I mean, obviously, we've mentioned a few of these, but I am going to say, like, Petey, to me, if we haven't picked him, delivering back to back and continuing to be the best in the world by a lot.
Yeah.
At this stage, and I would say like this is the most that he's ever been challenged to.
Yeah.
And yet he still delivers. And delivers in a big way too. I mean, people are getting closer, and it's fair to say that like Petey that 56.8 might have been his best. Maybe we already saw it. And I think that's a hard thing to realize as a swimmer. You never know that when your best time just happened. Like, when you did your best time, but you don't know at that point that that's the fastest you're ever going to
go. Yeah.
Right? So like maybe that already happened for Petey and he's still hanging on, but he's still showing up and delivering. And that just impresses me, because it's not a simple thing to win back-to-back gold medals in the Olympics.
Is split for like the men's 4x100 relay medley was like the fastest 100 breaststroke split of all time as well. He did like a really low 56. I don't remember what time it was.
That's a great
still got that in the bag.
Yeah, and by the way, what relay was that? That was the medley relay, wasn't it? So
yeah, I think it was the men's medley.
Yeah, and so I don't know what the difference was at the end, but I have to say the U.S. nailed the relay starts, and the Brits sucked at their relay starts in that race.
It was weird because they did so well in like the mixed medley relay. Their starts were great, and then suddenly for the men's, I don't know whether they just run out of a bit of steam for the take.
They were better, and special shout out to Zach Apple, by the way, because his relay starts in this morning were amazing. He absolutely nailed the relay starts. Some people might say a little too fast, but I think that he was sharp. And when people are really dialed, when anchor relay swimmers are really dialed, I really love that. On the women's side, we already talked about McKeon, of course. Then I got a few for various reasons. Titmus, I thought, really delivered against the hype. There was pressure on her to beat Ledecky, especially after trials and after beating her at Worlds. But, was that a fluke because Ledecky was sick? So I thought for her to come in and prove that she was like the best at those distances was a big thing. I think in general, the theme for me is Australian women across the board delivered in a way that they hadn't previously, with the exception of the 800 free relay.
And Katie McCain.
Yeah. So the next one on the list is Kaylee McEwen to back up the hype, to break a world record at trials, and then to show up and do it again and to upstage Reagan Smith. And then I don't know, I know that Tatiana Schumacher had been, really had established herself as one of the best breaststrokers in the world previous to this meet, but still, one women's world record individually on the books, and she's the one who got it. That's right, isn't it? She's the only one who got an individual world record on the women's side. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was a really big deal, and to, really resurrect South African breaststroke in a big way. And then, I'm going to give my final one to Ledecky for a three-peat in the 800. I thought a lot of people thought Ledecky looked flat and wasn't going to show up, and she still ended up winning 2 individual golds in a big way. So, shout out to Ledecky.
Hey, Meg, Brian mentioned Petey. You mentioned that Duncan Scott is just underrated in Britain. Is Petey really heralded and known, and especially how good a dancer he is he?
I definitely think he's coming up the ranks through, because obviously Britain, what we had, Becky Adlington was sort of, one of the main reasons that I got into swimming when I was 8, and she was sort of heralded. But then after London, British swimming didn't have best London 2012. So I think PE coming through, especially after 2016, to be fair, it's really nice to see that he's sort of everywhere. I remember I did like a workshop or something the other month, and they were talking about if the Olympics had happened, who do you think would have been the biggest British Team GB star? And it was so nice to see that all these people who didn't know anything about swimming were just putting PE. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm really I was really proud of him. I don't know the guy, but I was like, but I think he's definitely helping British swimming get out there, especially with his new endeavours on the ballroom floor for this year, which is great. Those of you who are watching who don't know, Adam Peaty is not taking part in the ISL as far as we know this year. He's instead doing the Dancing with the Stars, but British version, Strictly Come Dancing, which I'm very excited for because I love that show.
We might have to watch it.
It is brilliant. I don't think he's going to be very good. I did actually ask Matt Richards. I was like, can he dance? And he was like, he's all right after a few beers, but on a ballroom, I'm not quite sure. So we'll see how that goes.
I wish we had a music drop right there that just said, we can dance. We can dance. We can dance.
But at least he's getting the swimming out there, because people, the people who will watch it every week, it's on every Saturday and Sunday, who are watching it will be like, oh, he's a swimming star. So
in America, we had Natalie was on it. I want to say Lochte may have been on it, but that's it.
Meg, I don't care until he gets onto the baking show. That's one I want
to just
wake up.
I don't care.
He'd have to do the celebrity one then, and that's not as popular as the celebrity one.
I want him to be judged by Paul Hollywood on how good his Yorkshire pudding is. That's what I want to know.
All right. Of the social kick guests we had, John, who was the one who you were most excited about, and who's the one that you felt most painful? Oh, shite, I wish she had done some. I know he or she. And which one you got excited of our guests that we had? Now that we kind of met them a little bit.
That's a tough one because we didn't even plan for this. But the one I was most excited for was probably Maggie McNeil in that 100 fly. Maybe because that was the first gold medalist that we had that I believe we had, and that was such a excited race. We knew it was going to be a fast race. There was a bunch of youngsters in it. And she delivered. And she also, I think, has that ability to get her hand on the wall like we were talking about earlier. She just somehow finds a way to win at these big races and steps it up. So I think of all our guests, at least off the top of my head, that's the one that I was most excited about. I was pumped for her. She was very fun to talk with. So it's nice to see her get a gold medal there. Most disappointed, give me a minute here. I got to think about the guest a little bit more maybe. No one comes to mind, but maybe just because they weren't doing well. I wasn't
400 IM men. 400 IM men was so slow. 4.9 won it. We fought 4.7s.
Yeah, and Lewis came.
4.12 he went, right? So 4.11 or something.
Yeah, but he came 7th, right?
7th,
Yeah. I thought, that one was a disappointment for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and I feel bad for people like that. Why was that final so slow? I have a theory about this, which is that I thought this was true for the U.S. team, that across the board this actually isn't just the U.S. team. I thought the first few days of the Olympics of swimming were pretty flat, and then I thought that it escalated throughout the week.
That's right. I agree.
Morning finals were happening in Tokyo, and this happened in Beijing, but in Beijing there was a big crowd, and I think that there's a big difference between showing up in the morning and there being a big crowd with all the photographers and all the hype and a full stadium packed of people that makes you believe that what should be prelims is actually finals. And I think that really takes a flat morning session finals and makes it a true finals because of all of the hype in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I think the first few days of the Olympics were really impacted the swimmers in a big way, to the point that I really believe that was a huge impact to the 400 IM final.
That was the first race, right? That was the very first final. That was the 10:30 in the morning.
I think they walked in at 10 a.m. and stood up with zero people in the stand, zero clapping or anything, and said, "This is the Olympics," and it was wide open. And I don't know if that's fair, but it's got to be different when it's really quiet in the morning, which we've all been in prelim sessions that are really quiet, and all of the Brits swim their entire Olympic trials. Just crickets. And they showed up and it was dead quiet. And I just think, that's a big adjustment. And for the first few days of the Olympics, I thought that was really impacting the swimmers until they started to get into the meet and see the emotions of other swimmers and see some teams have some cheering. And then they got into it. I think it's understated how much atmosphere can play into how well the performance of swimming. And I think that just unfortunately really negatively impacted the first few days of this game.
It probably helped Ahmed as well, because the 400 free was the second final they had 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
And he's like, he believed he could do it, like you said. And it was wide open. He did it.
Yep. Yeah, and every meet he swims is like that.
Yep. And one person we haven't mentioned is Ohashi from Japan, getting, like Brian said earlier, winning 2 different distances in the 2 and 4M. Did you mention her earlier?
No, but still not her best times though.
Still though, I agree. It wasn't fast. None of them were that fast, but still, I think from in front of her home country in Japan, there winning 2 golds. She also had a good meet or good showing. Just wanted to mention it.
She did, but can we talk about the Japanese team as a whole?
Men's IM.
But you always see in the Olympics the lift. We always talk about the lift of the home games and what that does for the home team, which we saw in Brazil, which we saw in London. We did see in London, right? I mean, there was still a lift there, and we saw in Beijing with China. And I don't know if it always correlates to just swimming, but it's the entire Olympic team as a whole. But for this Olympics, the Japanese team, especially in the swimming pool, total dud. I mean, besides Ohashi, it was rough.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that too was the Daio Seto just set the stage for it. It just spiraled from there.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I was really moved by Erica Sullivan. First of all, that 1500. Finally, we got to see women swim an event they should be swimming. They should have swum for the last 100 years. But for Erica to be the first openly gay swimmer to make the U.S. Olympic team, and then the first openly gay swimmer to win a medal, and to be proud and stand up, and then the way she swam that race, did you guys see how she came back and she drove into second and she clawed away? Remember she said on her show that she was just in trials, that she was dying, holding on to dear God, and she was so glad she touched the wall. This one, she just was so confident, and she was catching the decky a little bit at one point. So I was just, and how they came out and they supported each other, I was really moved by Erica, I must say.
She definitely was. Yeah, and she was closing quite quickly, not just a little bit.
Yeah.
That was a huge step, and I think a really meaningful step for the swimming community and for the world community on the whole. Because I mean, just to be honest, like I've had gay teammates, before that, that weren't out, and I think that it's really, really helpful for all future gay or LGBTQ IA swimmers to have that sort of example to be able to look up to. So, and she's so awesome, like just an amazing ambassador for multiple communities. That was really special. I was disappointed that Katie Grimes didn't get a medal. I thought that would have been really neat to follow up with.
Yeah, I agree.
She had a good swim, but it would have been really neat to see that. Although it was a good performance. Just while we're sharing like kind of random stuff here, I think Caleb Dressel left a 4,800 fly on the table. Absolutely. I mean, Milak, everybody's pointing to Milak in that race, and yes, it was close, but it was only close because Caleb was so long on the turn and so long in the finish. And I'm telling you, that was a 48.9 swim.
So long.
Why was that, Brian? Why is somebody who's such a perfectionist who criticizes everything? What happened? What do you think happened? I mean, you don't know. You have to ask him. But what do you guys guess it was?
Butterfly's hard to time. Like short axis strokes are hard to time. Just like you have, it's really common. Well, I mean, obviously we could talk to Kara Toussaint about this because of 15-meter infractions, but like when you're tapered, it's hard to know exactly when you're breaking out at 15 because it's really different. You're rested, your kicks are more powerful. 15 meters feels different. The same thing is true in a relay takeoffs. When you're judging somebody coming in, like it's a whole lot different to watch, a 4,600 freestyler coming in than it is a 4,900 freestyler coming in or slower. And so, when I think it's just like judging these things is a little bit different at speed. And I think Caleb was just in that spot where, he just had that one swim where his athleticism and the rest of the swim was incredible, but he just totally off on the turns. And that happens more often on short axis strokes than it does on long. So, I mean, I think I was both like, it was so amazing that he came out with a world record in that. And it's amazing for somebody to break a world record and not even be that enthused about it because Caleb knows it. And, I don't know. I'm excited though, too, because like now he's shown that he can go 48 in the 100 free. And similar to our talk about Petey going 56.8, that swim looked really perfect. But man, do I hope that at some point we get to see Caleb go 48 in the 100 fly. And I hope that we didn't just see a would-be 100 fly slide by.
And I think he gets excited still, like leading off that the first relay. He still goes fast, but he just gets so excited. And I think he's going so fast in the water, like Brian said, it just makes it tough to judge, and he gets lost in the moment. And it just, hey, you're just racing, you're competing, and sometimes you end up between these strokes. And like Brian said, it's a tough one to judge in butterfly, but yeah, that was an amazing swim.
I have another one going off that as well. The women's 200 fly was a lot faster than I expected it to be in that final.
203.
Yufi Zhang did a 203. So he put her to like the second fastest performer of all time, which is behind that ridiculously fast 201. I was expecting like the final to be about the 205, which is what second and third did. But to pull out a 203, it was like an Olympic record. It came out of nowhere. I thought it was brilliant. And she podiumed on the 100 as well, didn't she?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
that's a great call.
She was great.
Yeah, amazing. And what I really loved about the way that Zhang Yufei swam that is that she just goes out so hard and hangs on. And to do that in butterfly is, especially the 200 fly, is so hard to do. I mean, you mentioned Chad Leclerc already, Luke. That was really, I don't know. What's the female equivalent to ballsy? I thought that was a really ballsy swim. Whatever that is on the women's side, you let me know. But I thought it was a ballsy swim from Zhang Yufei.
Especially when he's done it several times. He knows what he's putting himself up against. And as he gets older, it's going to be worse. And he knows what is coming.
I'm not talking about Chad. I'm talking about Zhang.
We know Chad dies. We know that's what he does.
We're celebrating the women. Quit mansplaining.
Yeah, that was a great swim though. And hey, American bias, we got second and third. Good swims on our part, but yeah, that 203 was a great swim, and still highlights how ridiculous the 201 is though, because she looks so great with that 203.
Yeah.
All right, I got to talk about that the men's 50 free and 100 free world records still stand. How long is this going to stand?
Listen, first of all, Manadu gets gold, silver, silver. Unbelievable. I mean, you're talking about, over the period of 9 years, he's still one of the top 250 stars in the world. Amazing.
Is that the
and he got faster.
Is that the first time somebody's ever medaled 3 Olympics in a row?
No, Gary. Gary got silver, gold, gold. Silver in 96, gold 2000, 2004.
Right. Okay, never mind. Yeah. Sorry, Gary. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That is incredible. It really is.
Incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, that 100 free. God, they are so close. Even Klisikov was close, and like they're all sniffing around it. They just can't get that record.
They're so close.
I thought.
Do you think it'll be one of those things that as soon as one person gets it, everyone's gonna get it?
Yes.
100 free for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a great call.
Mm.
The same race people could go under it. Like, I mean, these guys are so close already.
There are 5 people who can do it, eh? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 5 people. There's the Russian, the Aussie, the American.
So I think that's true in the 100, but I don't think that it's true in the 50.
No, it's one close. Not even close. Is that sad? 21.5 was second place. Was that right? 21.5?
Was that right?
Yeah, and I have to say
21.5 has always been the second place since like Beijing. I want to say not, but probably.
Yeah, and by the way, I thought that race to me really cemented my position on Michael Andrews' Olympics, because Michael Andrew came 4th, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yep,
so was it his best time? No. But for Michael Andrew to be able to have the performances that he had in this meet and to have a bit of a down meet, to show up and still scare the medals in the 50. I mean, the guy's just swimming such different events. It's got to be hard to taper for, like we already talked about. He's focusing on the 200, but can swim all the way down to the 50. And yet people swim their entire lives focusing on one event, especially in the 50. And he came so close to medaling, and yet he was finaling in the other.
5 100s off of silver.
I really thought, like, okay, if he can medal in this event, everything else goes away. And so I felt really bad for him that medal didn't come through in the 50, because I think that changes the tone of like the takeaway of his Olympics. But he's still an Olympic gold medalist. So, and by the way, I'm 100% in his corner.
To have the presence of mind and maturity to put all that behind you, to put 7 days of competing and behind you under pressure in the press and asking questions, step on those blocks and they will sleep the night before or even during and because you got to sleep the night before the finals, right? And what a mature, well-rounded guy to perform like that.
All right, what else do we have to say about the Olympics? Fortunately, we only have 3 years to go until the next one, even though, of course, I'll watch the Winter Olympics.
No,
go ahead, Meg.
What was everyone's best reaction? Because there were some good reactions. You've already mentioned Maggie, John. That was a good one. Showmaker. I want to say Annie Laser in her 200 breaststroke, because her reaction just made me smile, because she was just so pumped. I think she was more pumped almost for Showmaker for getting the world record, but there were some good reactions.
Yeah, the
end in the 400, Dressel crying after the 100 free, just like, God, yeah, this guy does have the weight of the world on him, or the weight of the swimming community. You could just see it, like, geez. The botched, the first night, Chase's reaction in the 4 a.m. during this interview when he's sitting down and they couldn't connect, like, his family and him.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call that reaction, but that was odd. He's
Imagine
like, I'm done. I'm not talking. He's just like exhausted, and they're trying to connect him. So I don't know. There was some interesting ones on my end. What do you guys think?
Brian, I don't remember if he was your teammate at one point, but to get beaten into third place and still hug the block, sing the anthem, cry, Bruno Fratus, it just showed again redemption. So that was very powerful to show what that meant, and he won bronze. He didn't lose the gold, and he won a medal, and that's why we always say you win a medal. He won a medal. So Bruno.
Right. Isn't that interesting, the psychology about silver medalists and fourth place finishers? Right? The happiest people in the world are the gold medalists and the bronze medalists.
That's true.
Yeah.
A gold medal. That's true.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Now, I think in that setting, Bruno would have been the happiest person in the world with any color medal for sure. No, he was never a teammate of mine, but I do remember an interaction that I had with Bruno in Auburn when he first came to train there. And I was definitely still swimming, but I was there. I had been training at somewhere else at that point. And I remember Bruno talking to me about his philosophy on how he surfs on top of the water, and he thinks about your body as a surfboard. And so you stay completely rigid, and he thinks about rotating, his shoulders around the surfboard. But like another takeaway that I had was just how passionate this guy was about the sport of swimming, and how invested he is in other people and their success too. And the outpouring of love for Bruno could not be more deserved. You can see that he's the type of person within the swimming community that everybody just wholeheartedly loves. And God, that's a special person, isn't it? For you to have no enemies, and for everybody in the community to just wish you well and to be so proud of who you are. Think about how many examples we have of people that had that takeaway of Bruno's bronze medal. So really, really amazing moment. And I think really, Luke, that captures the heart of the Olympics and the Olympic movement is the moment that Bruno Fratus had in that meet. So really, really special to see. So,
and what does he have, like 70 sub 22 53
93 or something? 93,
like just an insane amount and consistency. So
how hard is that to do, Brian?
Amazing.
I mean, you've done it a handful of times, Brian. To break 22, I don't know. You've done it once.
I did it one time.
Oh, I thought you did more because you went 21.7, right?
I went 21.7. I did it one time, and Bruno's done it 93 times. How do you do that? I have no idea. I guess you surf on top of the water. No, you have tremendous work ethic and tremendous consistency. It's unbelievable. It really is truly unbelievable. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. It's so fun to be able to watch this watch the Olympics once every 4 years. I'm trying to think about it that way because I just love watching elite swimming, and you can have a fast race or your best performance of your career at any point. It doesn't have to be in the Olympic year. So I'm looking forward to watching, this fall in the ISL and watching some people for sure in the ISL this fall. People are going to have their best swim of their career. And we might not know it, but they'll remember it that way. And then, fortunately for us, we've only got 3 more years to get to the Olympics. So I'm curious to see what the impact that has on some of the people going, hey, 3 sounds like less than 4, so I'll stay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll keep doing
That's right.
Yeah. And others that might not. So I look forward to getting into some of that talk in ISL the next time with you all. And gang, we are a fully remote crew now, but the swimming world connected us. It'll keep us together, and we're excited to be back with you, and we'll see you again next time around here soon. So hope you all enjoyed the Olympics, and good to see you again. Cheers. That's it for this episode of the Social Kick Podcast. Later.
Good stuff. See ya.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you're enjoying Social Kick, tell your friends about it, and be sure to tell us what you liked by leaving a comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at The Social Kick Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Social Kick, and you can find all of our content on our website at thesocialkick.com.